You have attended every gathering, learnt every social script, perfected every mask, and still, when you are alone at night, you feel the truth. You were never supposed to be in that room. Not because you failed at belonging, but because belonging was never your inheritance. If you have spent your life wondering why you cannot force yourself to fit where others seem to arrive effortlessly, this video names what you have always sensed but never heard spoken aloud. Welcome to Power and Myth. What the internet calls the Sigma INFJ is what Jung identified as a specific archetypal pattern, one that has existed in every culture across time. The hermit, the figure who withdraws not from weakness but from necessity. The lantern bearer who must go into darkness alone to find what others need. This is Jungian archetypal psychology, the patterns Jung spent decades mapping in human consciousness. And if you recognize this pattern in yourself, you are not broken. You are participating in something ancient. There is a moment that defines the hermit's experience, and you will know it if you have lived it. You are at a party, or a family gathering, or a workplace celebration. The conversation is pleasant. People are laughing. You are participating, saying the right things, asking the right questions. And beneath all of it, you are watching yourself from outside your own body, wondering when you will be allowed to leave. Not because these people are unkind, not because you are socially inept, but because there is a thickness to the air that no one else seems to notice, a weight to the performance that exhausts you in ways you cannot explain. You look around and realize that everyone else appears genuinely at home here, and you understand with a clarity that feels like cold water, that you are fundamentally alone in a room full of people. This is not social anxiety. Social anxiety is the fear that you will be rejected. What the hermit carries is stranger and more isolating. It is the knowledge that even when you are accepted, even when you are liked, even when you are wanted, you remain outside. The exile archetype is cast out. The hermit simply never arrives. You can learn every custom, master every script, perform every role, and still, at the end of the evening, you will return to your solitude with the relief of someone who has finally stopped pretending to breathe underwater. Most INFJ content will tell you that this is introversion, that you simply need to recharge alone, and then you will be ready to re-engage. That is not quite true, is it? Because the exhaustion you feel is not about energy depletion. It is about the slow, grinding awareness that you are constantly translating yourself, that every interaction requires you to compress something vast and strange into a shape that will fit through the narrow doorway of ordinary conversation. The shapeshifter does this too, but the shapeshifter is still seeking connection. The hermit has already accepted that true connection, the kind that does not require translation, may not exist for them in this lifetime. You have tried to belong. That is what makes this so difficult to name. You have shown up. You have been kind. You have been interested. You have asked questions, listened to answers, laughed at jokes, and offered help when it was needed. You have done everything right, and still you remain on the outside, watching through glass. The cruelty of the hermit's path is that it cannot be solved through effort. You cannot work your way into belonging. You cannot earn your place in the village. Because the issue is not that you are doing something wrong. The issue is that you are wired for a frequency that the village does not broadcast on. This is where the shadow of the hermit becomes dangerous, because when you cannot explain why you do not fit, you will invent explanations. You will decide you are too much, too intense, too strange, too broken. You will watch others form connections that seem effortless, and you will assume the fault lies in you, and you will begin the long, exhausting work of trying to fix yourself into a shape that can finally belong. But here is what most people never understand about this. You cannot fix your way out of an archetype. The hermit is not a problem to be solved. It is a pattern you are living. And the moment you accept that, everything changes. Jung understood this. He wrote about the individuation process, the lifelong work of becoming who you truly are. And central to that work is the acceptance that some aspects of yourself will never be collective. Some parts of you were never meant to be shared at the dinner table, understood by your family, or celebrated by your colleagues. The hermit carries knowledge that cannot be spoken in ordinary language. You perceive things that others do not see. You sense the undercurrents, the patterns, the invisible scaffolding holding reality together, and that perception isolates you, not because others reject it, but because they simply cannot see what you are pointing at. This is introverted intuition operating at full capacity. What seems like alienation is actually your cognitive architecture processing data that most people never access. You are reading the collective unconscious, that vast field of shared meaning and archetypal patterns that Jung identified. And the price of that access is loneliness, because you are perceiving a layer of reality that is not visible to those around you, and there is no way to translate it without sounding strange, intense, or too much. The hermit myth appears in every tradition: the monk who climbs the mountain, the witch who lives at the edge of the forest, the sage who dwells in the cave, the oracle who withdraws from the city. These are not stories about rejection. They are stories about vocation. The hermit does not leave because they are unwanted. They leave because there is work that can only be done alone. The lantern they carry into the darkness is not for themselves. It is for the ones who will come after. The insights they bring back from solitude are not personal treasures. They are maps of territory that most people will never visit but desperately need to understand. And this is where the gift of the hermit emerges. Because whilst you may never belong in the ordinary sense, you offer something that those who belong cannot. You see clearly. You are not entangled in the collective agreements that keep most people comfortable but blind. You can name what others sense but cannot articulate. You can hold paradox without needing to resolve it. You can sit with complexity without rushing toward easy answers. And all of this is possible precisely because you are not embedded in the village. Your outsider status is not a wound. It is your vantage point. But the shadow remains. And the shadow of the hermit is bitterness. It is the slow calcification of isolation into superiority. It is the moment when you stop seeing your solitude as a necessary condition for your work and start seeing it as proof of your uniqueness. It is the move from I do not belong to I am too evolved to belong. And that move, whilst understandable, is corrosive, because it cuts you off from the very thing that makes the hermit's work meaningful: compassion. The hermit withdraws not because they despise humanity, but because they love it enough to do the difficult work of seeing clearly. The moment you start to believe that your solitude makes you better, you have lost the thread. This is why the hermit must return, not to stay, not to pretend they have finally learnt to belong, but to offer what they have found in the darkness, the wisdom, the clarity, the map of the territory, and then to withdraw again, because that is the rhythm of the archetype. Descent, insight, return, withdrawal. You are not failing at life because you cannot sustain permanent presence in the collective. You are living a different pattern, one that has always existed, one that will always be needed. So if you are watching this and recognizing yourself, here is what I want you to understand. You were never meant to belong in the way that others belong. And that is not a failure, it is your inheritance. The hermit does not fit because the hermit is not supposed to fit. Your work is elsewhere. Your vocation is depth, not breadth. Solitude, not community. Insight, not belonging. And the strange, difficult gift you carry is this: you can see what others cannot. You can name what others sense but fear to speak. You can hold the tension that others need to be resolved. And you can do this precisely because you are not embedded in the collective delusion that everyone is fine, that everything is working, that the way we are living makes sense. You are the one who knows it does not, and that knowledge isolates you, but it also frees you, because you are not bound by the need to maintain the comfortable lies that keep communities cohesive. You can speak the truth. And whilst that truth may not be welcome, it is necessary. The hermit has always been necessary. The village may not invite the hermit to the feast, but when the crisis comes, when the maps no longer work, when the old certainties collapse, it is the hermit they seek, because the hermit has been mapping the darkness whilst everyone else was celebrating in the light. If this felt like finally being named, I want to hear which moment landed hardest. Tell me in the comments, are you the hermit who has been trying to force yourself into belonging, or the hermit who has already accepted your path and if you want to continue exploring this territory, subscribe. This is Power and Myth, where your solitude is not too much. It is exactly what was needed. You are part of something here, even in your aloneness. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.